sunny day on our March 9th meeting for Valley Link Rail. And we'll start with a roll call, please.
Director Kinjo. Director Kinjo. Director Cantu.
Here.
I got David Hobart coming over. Hernandez.
Candace, you have Bernice on the waiting room as well.
I'm here.
There's our supervisor for Alameda County.
Okay.
I believe Bernice is on the
Hernandez.
I'm here.
Hudson. Kick.
here.
McPartland. Neram.
Here.
Rickman.
Here.
Stepper.
Here.
Vargas.
Here.
Warner.
Here.
Wright. Wright. I
Here.
see you.
Here. I had to unmute.
Zuba.
Here.
McPartland.
Here.
King Tingle.
She's on the waiting room.
She is. I'm trying to move her over, but has not accepted that request yet. Okay, I do see her there. And then Brittany Kick. Did we get Kick? Director Kick, you're muted.
Yes, I'm here. Sorry.
Okay. You have a quorum, Chair. Thank you.
Perfect. I am, you gotta let Bernice know to accept the invite. Okay, so with that said, Mayor Cantu, would you make the honors to just lead us on the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure. I pledge of allegiance.
To the flag.
I'm sorry, I've got a head cold and my throat is killing me. Can you ask somebody else?
Absolutely. We'll pass it to Mayor Warner. Bob, would you mind leading us?
Yeah, I just had to find my unmute button here. So, okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. And Ben, I hope you feel better soon. I'm sorry that you're under the weather.
That's all right, thank you.
No problem. All righty, we'll get to number 3, public comments. Members for the public, this is an opportunity to make comments on items not on the agenda and only pertaining to Valley Link business. Candace, do we have any members of the public wishing to make any comments?
I do not have any members of the public with a hand raised.
Perfect. We'll bring it back. And Candace, do you have any emails, letters to be needed to be read into the record?
As of yesterday afternoon, no, we do not.
Perfect. Thanks, Candace. We'll move along to consent item number 4. And that is to approve consent item from our minutes from February 9, 2022, the treasurer's report from January 2022, and the resolutions, the R07-2022, declaring the agency meeting will continue via teleconference. Do I have a motion? And will somebody?
The consent calendar.
Thank you, Kathy.
You're welcome.
Hernandez will second.
Thank you, Vice Chair. With that being said, and before we take a vote, I wanted to take a moment to acknowledge our treasurer report and all the hard work that our staff is doing. And a special thank you to Tamara Edwards, who is our Director of Finance, who has done a fantastic job to make sure that we keep tabs, we keep our budget on point. So I wanted to acknowledge and give her credit for keeping us tidy and on balance and doing all the work that to run this business in this district. So with that, Candace, would you please do roll call?
Akinjo. Cantu.
Here.
Corbett, yes. Corbett,
Yes.
Hernandez,
Yes.
Hudson, not here. Kick,
Yes.
King Tingle.
Yes, I finally got on.
Lovely. McPartland,
Yes.
Neeram,
Yes.
Rickman,
Yes.
Stepper,
Yes.
Vargas,
Yes.
Warner,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Zuba.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Candace. We're moving to item number 5 is the Executive Director's Report. I know that our staff been very busy, and I'm very happy with all the work that we have done, and I'm looking forward to hear what kind of updates you guys have for us.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good afternoon, directors. Yes, thank you. We've been very busy over the month of February and continue to be busy. And as we transition from a previous executive director, Michael Tree, to myself, there are a number of contracts that were initiated under the executive director's authority. And I just name within his budgetary limits, or the executive director's budgetary limits. The first one would be with Red Oak for the regional advocacy. And with Red Oak as a consulting firm that welcomes back Scott Haggerty in a different capacity to assist with the number of things that were started when he was here previously and when Michael was here. One of the major ones being to help wrap up the Alameda County right-of-way agreements. He has the institutional knowledge on that and help us with funding, finding new funding opportunities in the region. Zen is another contractor that is our hydrogen proof of concept consulting firm. They'll be giving a presentation later on during this board meeting, and we're really happy to have them on board. They bring with them a lot of experience and knowledge. And also Gilbert and Associates, who is a graphic provide Valley Link graphic support when we need to do media releases or other types of graphic needs. And I'd say one of the next most important things that Mr. Chi did on his way out the door was to help, with the help of Deputy Director Will Ritter and legal counsel, get the MOU term sheet signed for the Tracy property that was given by resolution in September of 2020 to Valley Link for the operation and maintenance facility in Tracy. It sets forth the terms of the 200-acre transfer in the city in Tracy, and that was a significant accomplishment in itself, and very grateful to everybody that worked on that. But having the term sheet placed now allows us to begin that conveyance process, and it's been forwarded over to the City of Tracy attorney, and that, I believe, is the last signature needed on that. We have a couple other meetings that took place. The first one was a briefing with the Speaker of the Assembly, Anthony Rendon, in Stockton, with the supervisor, Assembly member Carlos Villapadua. His office, and joined in that meeting was Director Rickman. There was a briefing given on hydrogen and the hydrogen facility in Tracy, and there was a lot of excitement generated at that meeting, and a lot of questions we were able to answer one-on-one with the speaker, which is a rare opportunity to have, to be able to meet with the speaker to talk about a project, and he expressed a lot of interest in our project. We also met with some other hydrogen developers, Engie from France, who is working with Alston to power their trains. That was a great meeting. And then an upcoming meeting that I have next week, Valley Link, we're invited to give an update for the House Transportation Assembly, the Natural Resources Info hearing on hydrogen. And that's going to be on Monday, 14th, where I'll be able to talk about our project and how we're moving forward in this direction of zero emissions for our service, start our train service. And that's it for my update.
Well, definitely you have been and your team extremely busy, and we're so thankful for all the hard work. I know you guys been working on weekends and overtime to make sure that we get to the plan and to the goals set on our early agenda. So I am thankful for all of you and the hard work that you guys putting together. I'm very excited and happy to see that the 200-acre site MOU is marching on the way. This is this production opportunity of energy production is huge for us and supporting our goals and of modeling of sustainability. So the opportunity to have solar power and generation and wind power generation to produce hydrogen it is commendable that you guys are moving this quickly, and we're going to be able to just get to that TERSA ground hopefully in the next month or so. So my hat off to all of you guys for just continuing pushing that forward, getting that MOU hopefully signed by the city attorney soon and back to our board, and having that opportunity to just have the equity to just put us one notch above for competitive grants. So thank you guys for all the hard work that you have done over there. Is any comments from the board members on this item? Seeing none, I close it, bring it back and open for comments from the public. Is anybody from the public wishing to make comments on this?
One member of the public.
Perfect. And I don't see who that person is, but go ahead.
Karen M.
Hi, this is Karen Moore. I'm a member of Tracy Earth Project, and I'm just excited. I've been watching this project from almost its inception. And I remember early on you were talking about zero emissions, and I'm glad that you're still continuing forward. It's exciting. And I just wanted to say, I'm really proud of all the work you guys are doing. Kudos. And that's all.
Thank you, Karen. We appreciate you calling. And there's one more member of the public wishing to make comments. I believe that Adrian Bratt.
Yes.
Go ahead, Adrian.
Adrian, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Thank you. Yeah, I'm a little bit concerned hearing the talk about hydrogen. There are a lot of increasing number of published papers and analyses that are very critical of the net carbon advantages and energy losses associated with using hydrogen for transportation versus battery. Or straight electrification. I know what some of the attractive elements are. I realize you're talking about generating it with solar, which is great. I just caution the staff and the board to pay very careful attention to what is hype and what is reality, and just keep a very sober view of because there's often a lot of hype around new technologies, and I know it's exciting, just like Hyperloop is proving to be a complete gadget bomb failure with Virgin just pulling out of passenger transportation and saying they're giving up on it after all this hype. And similarly with hydrogen, especially for motor vehicles, there's a very good case to be made that it's not the way to go. So for trains, I think the jury's still out, but I caution you to be very careful and before committing yourselves to what could potentially be something that looks a lot better on the surface than it actually is. So just beware. Thanks.
Thank you, Adrian, for your comments. With that, I see no other members of the public, so close that and bring it back to the board for board comments. And I see our Director Warner, you have the floor. Oh, we can't hear you.
Better?
Yes.
Is that better? Okay. With respect to the comments that were just made, we've got the subcommittee working on this, and there are two things that we're looking at, and I think we'll hear more about it later today. One is the technical feasibility of whether you can power these vehicles with the hydrogen, and that's one aspect. And the other is, what's the business case? But some of these articles that were referenced about hydrogen may not pencil out for motor vehicles, et cetera, are not relevant to what we're talking about here, especially since what the key question is, can we generate sufficient hydrogen on site through solar? And does that make sense from an economic point of view? But we'll be looking at both of those things. And so I just want to say, we're going to be careful and we'll be thorough and be quite intelligent about the whole decision.
Thank you, Director Warner. And I'm looking forward to you guys' update. I know that the AHA community has been working hard and they have met last week. With that said, we'll move on to item number 6, which is the San Joaquin Council of Governments Caltrans I-205 Managed Lanes project. And we have an informational update. Who will be taking that?
Hello, Chair. I can do the introduction for SJCOG. We invited them here, and I believe Deputy Director Ryan Niblock. I'll be turning the floor over to him to lead the presentation, and just want to thank Ryan for putting together a presentation to help educate the board on SJCOG and Caltrans' ongoing efforts for the 205 Managed Lanes project. So Ryan, if you like, it's all yours.
Great, thanks very much. Yeah, sorry, we're just, I see the project team piling in. We were in the audience and now we're panelists here. So we're very excited to be able to speak again with Valley Link, previously with staff, and now with the board. So I am Ryan Niblock. I'm the Deputy Director of Programming and Project Delivery at SJCOG. And why don't we go ahead and introduce the project team, the consultant team, starting with Parag.
Sure. Hi. Yeah, good to be here. Thanks, Ryan. Parag Mehta, Project Manager for the 205 Managed Lane project.
Nice to have you, Parag. Nice to meet you.
Yes,
And as well with you, Ryan. I'm so happy that you guys are here.
We have Matt and Sharina. You guys, yeah, you're on.
Yeah, hi, I'm Matt Sato with Dewberry, and I'm assisting SJCOG with managing this project.
Pleasure to meet you.
Okay. Well, we have a brief presentation to give you an overview of where we're at with the project now, and so Parag will be leading that. So
Ryan, before you move on, I think I cut off Sharina. Sharina, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. Hi, I'm Sharina Lamb with Kimley Horn, and I'm supporting on the engineering efforts.
Thank you for being here, Sharina. And go ahead, Ryan.
Right. I was just handing it over to Parag. Said we have a PowerPoint presentation. Hopefully, Parag has been permitted to share screen, and he will lay out where we are with our project.
Excellent.
All right. Yep, I can share. Let me see if I'm sharing the right screen. Not. Are you able to see my presentation?
We sure are.
Yes. All right. I'm not sure. Are you seeing the presentation?
We are. Yes.
All right. Cool. Oh, sorry. Thanks. Okay. So I'm going to. So we put together a short presentation. Our plan was to share our status of the project. So first of all, thanks for inviting us. And we're happy to share where we are with the current project status and what we wanted to give you an overview and talk about the design effort, environmental outreach, and generally share the information and talk about our schedule. And so we are in the environmental clearance phase. Right now, we're just preparing the project base map, identifying alternatives to develop the project footprint, which is very essential for environmental clearance phase. Looking at the utilities, right-of-way impacts, and as we move forward, we were going to develop more. We are in a very early stage of this preliminary engineering and environmental clearance phase. Our anticipated timeline is completion of this phase in March, April 2024, and it ties in very well with the Valley Link's NEPA clearance effort. And so both projects can move forward There is a clear understanding. There is a clear understanding of what the project is about, and the both project can move forward together. And they have independent utility, and there are coordination efforts that we need to do. Are you seeing the map? I'm not sure if my slides are moving.
Right, we're on the project overview now.
Okay, all right, sorry. So I was just kind of going through it where we are and where we're going with. So just to give you an overview, some of you may have seen this before, know the project limits. What I wanted to highlight is our limits are in Alameda County, just west of 580-205 system interchange, and it runs through 205 through the city of Tracy, just ends at east of I-5. So the entire 205 section through city of Tracy is part of our project. We understand that there are a number of efforts that are ongoing in this project. 239 trialing project with CCDA, city of Tracy is doing Mountain House, Lammers, and Chrisman Road interchange projects. Of course, the ACE alignment and then the current CEQA Valley Link alignment. There are a number of parcels that are being developed. And so the part of our 205 corridor project in environmental clearance is coordinating with all these projects and making sure that the project impacts are coordinated and also we understand the other projects and how we incorporated those into 205 managed lane project. Part of our project, we will be looking at Grant Line Road interchange in Alameda County, 580-205 interchange, and of course 3 interchanges in the city of Tracy, and then I-5-205 system interchange. In addition to the 205 improvements, we are also looking at potential for transit hubs. And so these are definitely more enhanced than a typical park and ride lots. We're looking at advancing it to provide for multimodal opportunities and connectivity, maybe even the EV parking and everything that goes with it, with the project. So that's the overall corridor that you're very familiar with it, or it's in the area that needs this project. And so just wanted to share some, the project purpose. It's not just a freeway kind of a project. We want to make sure we are improving mobility and improve commute times on Interstate 205 in and around city of Tracy. And if anyone who has driven this corridor, have commuted to Bay Area or back and forth in the area would recognize that there is a severe need to improve this corridor. The focus is increasing number of people or passengers that moves through the corridor by encouraging carpooling, ride sharing, and transit. So it's definitely way more than just a single user carpool, single occupant carpooler. Improve freight movement, and I can stress that more, just knowing the area and the amount of goods movement that goes through 205, 580, 5 corridor. That's something that we want to definitely see how we can improve that movement. And we want to be consistent with the planned transportation facilities in the area, accommodate planned transit development in the median, and I'll go a little bit more in that in the next few slides. So it's a combination of a mass transit opportunities along with the highway opportunity, and it's a sort of a complete corridor opportunity that we see for this 205 management project. So just wanted to share some of the work that we are doing right now, the alternative evaluation. There's, of course, definitely involves trade-offs, cost, travel times, timeline in terms of the schedule, funding, and the phasing of the project. And so some of the important factors that we are going through is, of course, the funding. We don't have a dedicated funding after PAD phase, so we need to be aware of it. The project may need phasing or may need to develop that in stages, and we need to be aware of that and plan for that. Flexible roadmap for transit opportunities. And what I mean by that is we are having this opportunity talking to you, Valley Link, been talking to ACE, regional bus service, and incorporating any of the mass transit service within the 205 corridor is, as I mentioned, is the purpose of our project. Improving goods movement is also a trade-off in terms of the capacity of the freeway and how do we accommodate the commuter and goods movement along with the mass transit opportunities. You may be aware of the vehicle miles travel impacts in the state and the difficulty associated with doing a project of this magnitude. So we definitely understand that needs to be mitigated, and that's a trade-off we need to work with. Right-of-way impacts, and I'll go in next few slides on that. It's very important for us to understand the right-of-way impacts in terms of developing and establishing the corridor footprint that we can work through the environmental process and clear it. So gives us an opportunity to advance projects as the funding becomes available. And another key element of the trade-off is the stakeholder and public outreach. We want to make sure that the project is consistent and builds on the consensus with the key stakeholder like yours. So wanted to spend a little time on the median, which is where we are preserving the right-of-way in the median for a mass transit fixed guided system. And so part of our purposes of the project is a complete corridor. We are looking at providing a mass transit opportunity in the median. It's kind of independent of the project, but we are preserving the right-of-way as part of 205 managed lane project. What we did, we looked at understanding the transit and rail operation needs in terms of the typical sections for 2 tracks for say so for Valley Link or for Ace Rail. Give us some idea of the width that would be needed for two tracks operations in the median. We also are looking at a dedicated, bus service. Multimodal options basically is our focus. We don't want to preclude any future opportunities. As I mentioned, we are sort of in a very early phase of developing a footprint and doing the environmental clearance, and we want to make sure we are accommodating, all different possibilities which can help in this region promote the multimodal options. So the idea is to preserve the median of 205 for this mass transit option. And 205 is being a Caltrans right away. We understand that this will be all subject to Caltrans approval. So again, it's a preliminary engineering planning stage, going through the environmental process. We'll go through the iteration, and we're just kind of very early and seeking input from all different stakeholders and operators. One idea we also had was providing the station and trying to figure out with all different scenarios, what should be a right footprint in the median that needs to be preserved for a future opportunity in the 205 corridor. So with all that iteration and trade-offs, where we are right now is we have 5 alternatives, which includes a no build option, which basically we don't do anything. Part of the EIR process, I'm sure you are familiar with that. And we are looking at high occupancy vehicle lane, express lanes, something that we have shown here with the tolling, the express lanes, transit only lane. And with all this different scenarios on the highway, we are looking at what can be done on the median and what right away we should be preserving for a mass transit option. We want to share that median for express lanes infrastructure, and we definitely at this point we have 45-foot unobstructed transit corridor width available. Again, we'll need some coordination and understanding of what can come there, what are viable, what should be preserved. So nothing in the future is precluded at this stage, and we're just developing the footprint. Some of the other consideration that will go into the corridor design is, as I mentioned, the transit hubs, equally important for the corridor. If you want to promote more multimodal facilities, we definitely need to have transit hubs, which are more inviting and appealing and also can promote for this multimodal use. The 3 interchanges that are part of our projects in City of Tracy would be implemented with complete street elements, again, consistent with the multimodal and promoting that feature. And again, the highway operations will need to be looked at with even maybe some elements of integrated corridor management to improve commuter time and transit time, and also the goods movement. So that's the sort of a engineering and preliminary engineering side of developing the footprint, working with traffic, working with stakeholders, and developing different improvements. From the environmental standpoint, which is what the phase we are in right now. So just a status-wise, we just completed the notice of preparation late last year and working through the general comments that we received. Just to share the overall, it was very supportive of the project, more outreach, and definitely need for traffic analysis, which would be part of our PAD scope. And there was a lot of trend towards a transit-oriented alternative. So it's consistent with the project purpose and what the preliminary footprint we are developing. Some key technical studies just to highlight that we'll be focusing on, besides the Caltrans process of going through the environmental, is the air quality and GHG, community impact and equity. That will be a key component of our project, and then vehicle miles travel. And when you kind of look into that bucket and that context, the multimodal facility is something that we want to go for to mitigate some of those technical studies and the environmental requirement. We are processing both CEQA and NEPA, and so it'll be environmental impact report and environmental assessment document type as we go along on this project. Outreach is, of course, a key component of our project. We have a project website. We used that extensively for our NOP scoping meeting. We have series of ongoing stakeholder engagement that's ongoing, and we were going to initiate more in this early phase. And as we develop the corridor alternatives to share more ideas and seek input, recent meetings again today, and then we're meeting with Tracy, Alameda CTC. We're meeting the regional transit district because the bus operation would affect in terms of what we plan for transit hubs, and we have ongoing project PDT meeting with Caltrans and kind of sharing the project development as we go along. We will plan for future public workshops coming out of NOP and developing the alternatives. We want to spend time seeking input through the stakeholder coordination. And as we develop the alternative, we will go out to do more workshop and get broader public input on that. So just for milestone wise, we kind of in the stage of kicking off the technical studies, and we want to complete the environmental technical studies by end of the year, which allows us to stay on schedule to circulate the environmental document, the CEQA, NEPA, EIR, and EA by fall of 2023, and then through the circulation, getting the comments, public comments and stakeholder comments, and finalizing this PAED phase is March, April 2024. So it's on a pretty aggressive schedule for a project of this size, and we are reaching out and trying to get everyone's input and sharing information as we develop the project. That was a kind of a quick overview and a lot of information that I put it out there. So we wanted to reach out and see if you have any questions or any point to discuss.
Veronica, you're muted.
Thank you for that. Great presentation. And before we go to the board of directors for comments and questions, I want to open it to the members of the public. But I wanted to say this before going to the members of the public, that we sincerely, truly appreciate the partnership that we have with San Joaquin COG and Caltrans working together. Will clearly set the path for success moving forward in our projects. And I appreciate you guys taking the time today to do this presentation. It is a pleasure when we are able to collaborate to move the different interests forwards and for the better of the community. With that said, I'll move it. I will open for members of the public. See if any members of the public had questions. Candace, do you see anybody wishing to make any comments on this item?
I do not have any members of the public with a hand raised.
All right, we'll bring it back to the board. Directors, is anybody wishes to make any comments or questions regarding to this presentation? All right. I see none. Look at that. You guys did a fantastic job. And again, thank you for participating. We are delighted to just have this ability to partner up with San Joaquin COG and work together. And we'll see you probably soon again on the next update.
Thank you very much. And we'll be in frequent contact with your staff, with Kevin and Will. Absolutely.
Keep us posted if you guys need anything. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye. All right. With that, we move to item number 7, which is the strategic discussion on sustainability. I am gonna pass it on to our chair of the sustainability, where is our Alameda County Supervisor, David Harbert.
Hello?
Hi, David.
Yes. Could
All
you
right.
repeat the last sentence you said?
I said that do you have an update for us? And you had the floor.
No, very good. Is this about the hydrogen?
This is about your subcommittee update on your hydrogen, correct?
Yeah, no, all I can report is that we're still working with Alameda County Transportation Commission to host that. It looks like it's going to be pushed out now to September. Apologies that I thought it might have been able to move sooner, but we'll have industry combined with agencies, staff, and combined with electeds, governance teams, that's us, from the East Bay, and I think even broader Bay Area, because the Bay Area Air Quality Management District is going to be helping out with that. And we're still working on Sacramento, getting somebody from Sacramento to come, but we're hopeful that they will attend, and a good, rich, deep conversation about alternative energy.
Very good. And I see that you guys had a presentation, and I know that Director Hudson and Warner had a very engaging discussion on this topic. And I don't know if you guys want to go over the presentation. And I think the proof of concept of this study is wonderful. I know that it was a robust discussion during their subcommittee. And you guys are, taking this and working hard to just get it, the preliminary funding. So with that, I don't know if one of you gentlemen would like to take the presentation and go through the slides.
So I don't know, are you asking us to go through the slides, or is there somebody who presented the slides that would like to go through that?
Director Warner, I can do the introductory slides if you'd like, and then with the ad hoc report, if you'd like to give a recap of the key points from the meeting. They're identified in 2 slides.
Sure, that would be fine.
Okay. Just a background, I always like to start with our key policy objective to be a model of sustainability in the design, construction, and operation of the Valley Link Rail Project. And of course, our strategies that are identified in our adopted sustainability policy are what we are pursuing in this effort now. Next slide. Just as a reminder, we have, per our adopted 2022 work program, we have been undertaking a series of strategic discussions in February on vehicle technology. March is our month to examine potential energy strategy and kick off our proof of concept study for a potential hydrogen production plant. Next, in April, we'll actually be back to look at some preliminary findings of the proof of concept for the hydrogen production plant, and also examine some global best practices for sustainable design. March, April, we're looking at a possible town hall meeting. And then in May, be asking the board to consider some recommendations on some of these topics we've been reviewing. Next slide, Candace. So for today's agenda, we'll start with a report and then a discussion that will be led by Brendan Schaffer from Zen, our project team. And then after our discussion, look at next steps. So next slide. Just one of our biggest updates, a subsequent item, a look at the submittal of the TIRSIP application for funding for a facility with some of our partners, bus operators, on site. And but the other item, big item, was as Kevin mentioned in his executive director's report, bringing on a really good team, solid team of experts. Zen clean energy solutions that'll support the development of proof of concept for our hydrogen proposal. 3 key study concepts would be hydrogen production and energy farm and storage. And the approach to the work will be some interviews, examining potential collaborations. Key, of course, the assessment and analysis, and as Director Warner mentioned, making the business case as well, and then presenting a proof of concept for some top configurations. We say 2 right now, so hopefully 1 or 2 will jump out. Next slide, Candace. So I wanted to, this where I can turn to you, Director Warner. We attempted to capture all of the key preliminary findings, and then another slide, key input that was raised during the discussion for our consultants to consider in the proof of concept study. But if you wanted, if there's anything in these slides you'd like to highlight, or that would be really appreciated.
Sure, I think everybody can read the slide, but just going through it at the high level is the thing that's exciting is that site that is available to produce the energy that's needed to run the trains, and that the question that was there is what fraction of the energy that's needed to run the trains can be produced on site? What more would we might have to get, or to the flip side, is there excess production that could actually be sold and utilized by others? So that's part of sizing the site versus the production technology, and then you think about all the different efficiencies in the technology, and so you have to do a lot of technical analysis to decide if the site itself, what fraction of the total energy needs can it produce, and then of course at what cost, and does it make sense? But in principle, what we're looking at is something that would be really nicely zero emissions, with all the energy needed to run this system is on site. But that's to be calculated and thought through. And then you can look at the other examples around to see whether that the calculations make sense. Now, the next phase here, bullet, is that you could do this in phases. You don't have to do it all at once. And that, as was also pointed out, partnerships are necessary. I mean, there are other entities producing energy in the vicinity, and to what extent can we partner with them? And then, of course, what funding can you get based on the kind of concepts that we have? And that, and then the final thing is that all of these scoping analyses, we're hoping to have some insights by April. Is that anything else that you want to add that I might have missed?
I think I think you covered it pretty well.
It's pretty exciting.
Yeah. Next slide, Candace.
So you want me to go through this? So now the point is that we're not in the desert out there, and that wintertime is the Thule fog, et cetera. And so you have to look at the total amount of energy produced, and not only within a year, but what happens if there are significant foggy days and nothing is happening? Do you have enough storage, or what's going on? So a realistic set of assumptions has to be put into this to see whether it's feasible, not just is the peak capacity sufficient, and if you average that over the whole year, would you have it? Because you have to put in reality. And then you've got the economics, and I think the rest, I don't think there's anything else on what's said here that I have to emphasize.
Yep. Oops, if you can, I think we're ready for Zen.
Hey, Marianne, could you go back to that one slide that showed the dates? Was there a slide with future dates?
Yeah.
So that was, so Candace, you can go back to the dates It's actually next steps that we were going to wrap up with. It was our grand finale, but we can
We can wait. We can wait to the grand finale.
we can we can bring it up now if you'd like, Director Halbert.
It doesn't matter to me, whichever, as long as we do cover it at some point.
Yeah, there's some exciting things on the lineup, including a potential site tour. So I don't anyone let us forget to get to that slide. So
we won't. All right. I think Zen is available for us. Welcome.
Thank you.
Brendan, if you'd like to introduce your team member as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Am I going to share my screen for the slides?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Yeah, my name is Brendan Schaefer. I'm an associate at Zen Clean Energy Solutions, consulting firm located in Vancouver, British Columbia. And my colleague, Kate Hickey, junior associate, has also joined us on the call. Unfortunately, Sabina Russell, she's one of the principals at the firm. She really wanted to join, but could not due to scheduling conflicts. With that, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. All right. Can everybody see that?
We sure can.
All right. Still working?
Yes, it is.
All right, good. Okay, so just a quick summary about who Zen Clean Energy Solutions is. We're a specialty consulting firm in the 6th year of business. It was started by Sabina Russell and Jeff Grant. They were longtime employees at Ballard Power Systems. Ballard Power Systems is one of the major fuel cell proton exchange membrane fuel cell manufacturers in the world. And so they started this consulting firm to really start to look at other factors outside just the fuel cell stack itself. So there's a lot of infrastructure upstream to produce the hydrogen that goes into the fuel cell stack. So they started this consulting firm to kind of work on those other aspects. One of the big things that they have been able to accomplish, the firm has been able to accomplish, is developing the hydrogen strategy for Canada. There's these four areas that Zen has a focus in. So the first is on strategic planning, and then doing a lot of project development, and then carrying that through to the project management phase. And then there's a lot of fleet transition planning work that Zen is involved in. So historically, it's been a lot with public transit fleets, but has been expanding into other heavy duty fleets as regulation in California has started to target those other fleets. So we also thought we'd show a couple of reference projects that we've been involved in the past that we think kind of gives us the right experience to help out on this project. So the first is the hydrogen production plant that was installed at Sunline Transit and out in Thousand Palms. So this was, I think, it's one of the very first, if not the first, megawatt scale proton exchange membrane electrolyzer built. So it's a 2.5 megawatt system with a production capacity for hydrogen of 900 kilograms per day. Just to give you an idea of what that means in terms of how many buses that could serve. Each, on average, a bus might consume about 25 kilograms per day. There's quite a bit of on-site solar that could be used for the electrolyzer. There's complications with how everything's interconnected on the site. So the electrolyzer is actually really only being powered by grid electricity right now. And they are then purchasing renewable energy certificates to make to make that grid electricity 100% green. So our role on the project was really to work as a owner's representative. We led the project management activities from the owner's side throughout, and we're continuing to serve in that role as the system is, exercised. There's plenty of operations and maintenance issues that need to be dealt with at all times, and we do a lot of support on the data collection and analysis to understand performance of the fueling station itself, but also the proton exchange membrane electrolyzer as well. And then the other reference projects that we wanted to point out were the transit planning that we've done with various transit agencies across the state. So with the ICT regulation, which is the Innovative Clean Transit Regulation, all the transit agencies in the state needed to prepare a transition plan to zero emission buses. And so we participated with several different transit agencies across the state in developing their transition plans. All right, so moving on to kind of the topic at hand, which is, how are we going to go about working on this proof of concept for this hydrogen production facility. The first thing we thought we would kind of walk through is the different hydrogen production pathways. I won't spend too much time on this, but the general idea is, for this project, we're going to really focus on green hydrogen, which is, electrolytic power or electrolytic hydrogen. So that means it's coming from an electrolysis process where you're putting in electricity and water to produce hydrogen and oxygen. And this electricity will be renewable electricity, thereby making it green. And so as board member Warner was mentioning, there's quite a bit of land available at the Tracy OMF site, and there's a lot of opportunity for generating a lot of that renewable electricity right there on site. The other term I just want to point out here is blue hydrogen. So that would be hydrogen that's coming from natural gas, and then you would be doing some sort of carbon capture on the back end. We're not considering that for this proof of concept. Although there might be opportunities, I think as was mentioned, with maybe some biomass in the vicinity. And then there's also the opportunity of wind. And all of the hydrogen that would be produced would be very low carbon, if not zero carbon intensity hydrogen. Okay, so this slide is really just kind of showing what the different carbon intensities for the different production pathways, what they might look like. In the state of California, usually the carbon intensities are shown as grams of carbon dioxide equivalent per megajoule of hydrogen produced. So if we're looking at an electrolyzer system, so these are all electrolysis systems here. This would be steam methane reforming with carbon capture and sequestration. And then this would be pyrolysis, and then this is biomass gasification. We've also identified this dotted line here, and that would be where if you're above that line, you're not low carbon hydrogen, based on what has recently been legislated in the bipartisan infrastructure bill at the federal level. So they have a definition of low carbon or clean hydrogen, and that is at 14.1 grams of CO2 equivalents per megajoule. So just to quickly run through the different pathways. So, you know, if the electrolysis is driven primarily from the grid, you know, you're going to have a fairly high carbon intensity. Obviously, as the grid gets cleaner, you know, that's going to decrease. But the goal here is really to use on-site electricity and power it 100% with renewable electricity. So you would be, you know, basically at zero if you did that. Not basically, you would be. And then for steam methane reformation with carbon capture, if you fuel it, or if your feedstock is natural gas, you're going to exceed the low carbon definition. And if your feedstock is renewable natural gas, you can actually have a negative carbon intensity. A similar story with pyrolysis. And then for biomass gasification, this would not include any carbon capture. You can meet the low carbon hydrogen definition. This slide just quickly reviews the different electrolysis technologies. It organizes them based on their bankability or commercialized level. So alkaline is a very commercialized electrolysis solution. The issue is that, you know, it's really needs to be done at industrial scale. It's not very modular, and it needs to operate at steady state for the most part. Proton exchange membrane is more modular and can have better on-off performance. So would fit better with a variable renewable energy electricity input, such as wind or solar. So this would be the technology that we're looking at for this project. And then there's a couple other more advanced technologies that are in the works. And the solid oxide electrolysis technology is the technology that Bloom Energy is working on. And then on this slide, we're just showing the supply chain for green hydrogen. So you start with renewable electricity, either from solar or wind. Put the water into. I'm going to get some hydrogen out. It's going to need to be compressed. It could also be liquefied depending on your distribution, how you're going to distribute it. You're probably going to have some storage, and then you need to get it to wherever you're going to dispense it into the different vehicles. And then on the bottom of the slide, we're showing some layout of equipment, just to give a sense of what the equipment looks like. And this would be for a containerized solution. So inside this container would be the electrolyzer. Inside this container would be balance of plant and compression. And then there's some high pressure ground storage, as well as, you know, trailers that could be pulled in here. And these are some examples from proton exchange membrane electrolyzer manufacturers. And then we thought it'd also be helpful to maybe show what Sunline's system looks like. So Sunline, the electrolyzer that they've installed there is a NEL proton exchange membrane system, 2.5 megawatts, 900 kilograms per day. It's a building solution, so a little different than the containerized solution shown on the previous slide. And in this white box here, that would be where the electrolyzer is. There would be some gas management over here. There's some compressors here. Those compressors boost the pressure of the hydrogen coming out of the electrolyzer, and that goes into the ground storage. And then there's additional compression and chilling that feed to the dispensers. These are the bus fueling lanes here. And then there's two areas in the building. So hydrogen is on this side, so it's classified. That should read classified. And then this is an unclassified area, so this is where the rectifiers are to take the AC electricity and rectify it into DC, and that drives the electrolyzer. And then there's some additional equipment in the unclassified area. And then finally, we put together some quick sensitivity analyses on what the production cost for hydrogen might look like. So on the y-axis, we have dollars per kilogram of hydrogen. A kilogram of hydrogen is roughly equivalent, it's nearly equivalent to a gallon of gasoline. Just for your kind of understanding. And then on the x-axis here, we have utilization. So that is how much you're utilizing that electrolyzer asset. So if you're only putting electricity into it 40% of the time, that would be 40% utilization. And what we've overlaid here are different areas of expected utilization depending on the renewable electricity that you're using. So photovoltaic solar would be, somewhere around the 20 to 30 range. Wind would be, anywhere 40 to 30. I think these kind of got shifted a little bit, but you're going to need some battery energy storage if you want to go to a very high utilization. And then we also have the electricity price effect over here. So this would be for 12 cents of per kilowatt hour electricity in. This would be 2 cents. And then each of these lines represents a different capital cost for the electrolyzer system. So $100, $200, $500, $700, $900. Currently the capital costs that we're seeing are up in this range, if not more, once you include all the site integration work that needs to happen. So the general takeaway is that, as you come down in capital cost, the utilization doesn't matter as much. So like let's take a look at the $900 per kilowatt case. So if we look at that, utilization is going to have a big impact on what your ultimate cost of hydrogen is. So you're going to want to drive to that higher utilization when you have a high capital cost. And it's unlikely, given the timeline for this project, that you would start to get down to $100, $200 level. So driving the utilization up will be important, which means, considering energy storage for the renewable electricity will be important. And that's the end of our slides, and happy to take any questions.
You're muted. Aren't you muted?
I was trying to be respectful. Thank you. Before opening it to discussion within the board, I think some of us have a lot of excitement, comments. I am just tickled all this information, but I want to go to the public first and give the public an opportunity to make comments or questions. I will remind the public you have 2 minutes to address the board. With that, Candice, do we have anybody with their hands raised?
Yes, I have three people so far. First one is Vaughn.
I'm assuming you can hear me. My question is really directed toward Director Halpert. Will the ACTC Hydrogen Summit or whatever be well noticed to the public and available to the public?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller, please.
Adrian Brandt.
Yeah, my clock.
So Adrian, you muted yourself. Adrian, are you there?
Can you hear us?
There, I just received a second unmute. I didn't do that. So thank you again. I just want to again caution you. I know it's exciting and there's lots of technical stuff here. I'm a technical person, but I know board members typically are not. And I doubt you understand everything you're being told, but it's all very exciting. Just remember that you're going into the energy production business using bleeding edge technology that, as the consultant was alluding to, there are other expenses. You have a lot of capital costs and you're going into the energy production business using a bleeding edge technology. There's a lot of complexity and unknowns, and just be careful. There's also, there's your capital cost. You know, the numbers that you're being presented with, I don't know if they have fully wrapped in all of the costs of working and building this kind of technology in our very high cost area. The example given for the bus hydrogen facility, that was only enough capacity to power 36 buses. You know, 25 kilograms of hydrogen, I think it was, per bus, the consultant said. So be very careful, be wary, don't get too excited. I know it's easy to do, but there is also depreciation, and you're owning this facility. It's a big responsibility and it's a big risk. You're hooking your horse to being an energy producer. I think from where I stand, it's a lot more prudent to look carefully at buying completely green renewable energy, such as Caltrain is doing for its electrification, as High-Speed Rail Authority plans to do for its, and shift that risk onto somebody else and let all of that complexity be handled by someone else. To go into the energy production business using hydrogen right now, I think is, it's risky. And I don't know that it's smart for you trying to build a transportation, a new transit line,
Adrian,
get into that business. Yes. Okay, my clock wasn't on the screen, so I'll stop now. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate your comments. And we have Karen M. I believe it's Karen Moore.
Yes.
Yes, thank you, Veronica Vargas. Yeah, I will say that when I was in college and I had to take the environmental class, my professor did tell us about hydrogen, and his comment was, when we can harness the sun to break away the H from the H2O, we'll have something there. We'll really have met our clean energy needs. And so that's why I'm excited by this. But the last caller, I do agree. Us building an energy plant rather than buying the energy from some other person I also have some reservations to it. So I'm glad that he did mention that, but I'm also excited that we are looking at this whole project through the sustainability lens. And that's all I had.
Thank you, Karen. I appreciate it. And I see no other hands up, so I'll close the public comments. And before I turn it to the board, I want to say that I'm truly excited on today's discussion. I want to thank Director Harbour for his continued leadership on this ad hoc committee and for all the committee members' work. I know we have a science within our mix, so that makes it more excited to just get more vetting through. And I'm sure he will be more than happy to share his thoughts on that. We are, with Director Hudson and Warner, engaged on the topic. We are being safe and discussing all the alternatives, sharing their experience with the project and how we analyze this. So we hear you. We acknowledge the concerns, and we will continue to study and prove the concept as we develop opportunities for our projects. So with that said, Director Warner, you have the floor, sir.
Yeah, I would just want to say is that we on the board do have some of the requisite technical capabilities to understand this, as well as the financial abilities to understand it. And we're going to do this carefully. Just to, and the cautions are, you know, understood, but just because there is concern, that doesn't mean you don't thoroughly analyze something to see where we're at. And that's what we're doing. We're not going to do anything that doesn't make sense, is the way I would phrase it, and we have to evaluate it. Just a couple of things, if I may, on the presentation. I can just go back there. This goes to Zen and Brendan. You put on the one slide the California grid, but we're not talking the grid, California grid. We're talking PG&E. So, what fraction of the greenhouse gas-free % are you assuming for the grid in that count?
Yeah. So in this
so you
one,
should go back to the. It's a few slides back. That one.
Yeah, this one here. So this
Right.
is what we're using for. You're right. This is for the average California grid. I think PG&E's. So, anyways, it's based on the Air Resources Board calculation for the California grid, and I think.
Oh, yeah, so you don't have to. I just want to.
Okay,
Just want to say is check that, because I think the PG&E grid's 84% greenhouse gas free.
No, yeah, you're right. The PG&E might be cleaner. So
It's way cleaner.
Yeah.
So anyway, from the greenhouse point of view,
yeah.
And then the other one, if you go to your 2 slides down.
This one.
Yeah. And now, as we talked about earlier, the compression and liquefaction isn't necessarily needed for what we're talking about here, right? This is a standard one. So there's some potential savings in that, true, or do we need that now because we're going to have to sort of time average over the year?
You're going to need compression. So the electrolyzers, that comes out at 30 bar. And so you need to get up to 500 bar to cascade fill into the rail vehicle. So the rail vehicle, I mean, I think it's at 350 bar. So you're going to need to compress.
But you're not going to need to liquefy and keep it.
No, you don't need to liquefy. You don't need to liquefy.
I mean, that's a lot of energy there.
Oh yeah, the liquefaction is a lot. That's a big efficiency penalty. And then you don't need to obviously distribute it, right?
Right.
Which is a big cost. So
we just wanted to point out that this is a typical, but in this application, we wouldn't need all of these pieces. Anyway, thanks.
That's right. Yep.
That is why it's so helpful to have a science within the group. So with that said, I want to pass it to any other members of the board that may have questions or comments. Anybody? I believe Hudson had his hand up for a moment. I want to call. All right. With that said, we'll move on then to Harbor, Director Harbor, you have the floor.
Yeah. So I guess just to make sure that we continue the analysis and continue the dialogue, and maybe you're about to talk about next steps now, I'm not sure, but if we could, and to Mayor Warner's comments, we're not going to do something that doesn't make sense to us, and we're going to dig in and roll up our sleeves, rely on the people that we rely upon as governance leaders. We ask the questions and we understand the outcomes and we hold the system accountable, but we rely on the professional staff to do the real detailed work. But as you can see, we have scientists on the elected body as well. But if you could review the next steps, when will we lay money down and things like that? Because indeed they are large capital expenditures. And then if Zen could comment, I've made the comments before that we ought not invest in something that we're the only investors in. If everyone else is investing in something else, then we would know that. That's one of the main reasons for my desire to have a summit industry-wide, bringing industry and agency and electeds together to talk about all the different options and all the different variables and understand what everyone is doing. So if we could comment on the fact that we will likely not be alone in making these decisions, as much as we're going to analyze them to death ourselves, we're also going to validate in the marketplace that we are likely not the only ones investing in this space in this way. Just a couple of questions around that, and where we're headed time-wise in the next, up until the point we lay money down. If staff could comment on that, would be appreciated.
And we'll leave Kevin. There you go. Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much, and really appreciate the discussion and the questions. So just to assure the board and members of the audience, we are not alone. There is currently an FRA approved hydrogen train being built, and SBCTA, San Bernardino County Transportation Association, will be taking delivery of those trains. And this is a great segue into the next item that we'll be reporting on. But we also are organizing a field trip down to SBCTA to look at their facility as they prep for operating this hydrogen train. And it's certainly real. And the studies have already been done enough to the point where the state has substantially invested maybe $30 million approximately into this effort of studying this already. So as much as I'd like to be the first, I'm happy not to be the first sometimes, but we would be the first in starting up with the zero emission technology, where other services are having to convert, which there's a difference there. So we would be first in that respect. But I would say that the information has been developed to the point where the state of California is also procuring these trains. So it's not a mystery from that perspective. And we'll continue to report back the status to the board as that information becomes available to us and the public, so that that information shared in a way that everybody understands what the direction is as far as the trains are concerned. And then also you'll see in this next, before Brendan talks about the next steps, but the next item, we'll talk about the scalability of the hydrogen facility. It's true, its initial construction is to fuel the buses, but that isn't where it stops. It's scalable to the point where it fuels our trains. And that will be updated in item number 8. And Brendan, maybe if you could talk about the next steps, if that's okay with respect to the proof of concept report and what that's going to do for us on the board.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, the key things that'll come with this proof of concept report will be first, a justification for why green hydrogen is the right approach. There'll be analysis on the land available and what you might be able to get out of that land in terms of renewable electricity production. There will be some site layouts with potential, showing the potential for what solar or wind might be there. Site layouts for equipment with regard to the hydrogen production facility. And then finally, there will be a business case that accompanies it. So there'll be, simple cash flow analysis and a spreadsheet with the, with our best budgetary numbers on not just the electrolyzer, but all the different pieces of equipment that need to go in. Our best budgetary numbers on what we think, civil work will be involved, and best numbers on O&M as well. And so we'll try to capture all of that, using our database of information, and put that business case together. There'll probably be a little bit of iteration with staff, because the way I think I was trying to get at that with that green hydrogen economics slide is, there's a lot of, if you make one decision, it might change things a little bit, and then you might need to make another decision. And anyways, there's going to be a little bit of iteration. In terms of target dates for all of this, I see Marianne with her hand up. Maybe Marianne can talk about the target dates.
You know what? I wanted to just remind everybody about the last slide, but I think you covered most of the question, Brendan. But I just also wanted to say that Zen is helping us with discussions, or will be helping us with discussions with potential collaborators. We've been having contacts from a number of entities. Some have come via directors even. I know everybody's has ideas of who we can work with, who we can also supply think, and as Kevin mentioned, the next item, we'll talk a little more about collaborations with buses, but I think you've termed them as interviews, Brendan,
Yeah.
but really it'll be explorations and looking at how that fits in our business model. So we're excited about that. And Kevin mentioned in his exec director's report that we had a discussion yesterday morning quite early with some with ENGIE representatives from France, talking about the hydrogen production that they're doing with the trains in Europe. So that'll come back as part of the preliminary findings for the proof of concept report at the next meeting. So just to recap the immediate next steps, as Kevin mentioned, he'll be presenting on the 14th. There's great legislative interest in demonstrating hydrogen in the state. And they're interested in hearing more about our project and our proposal. Our next sustainability ad hoc committee meeting will be coming up prior to the April 13th board meeting, and will be a review of the proof of concept findings. Full board meeting will also have a presentation discussion, and we'll be looking at global best practices for design as we move design for the project further. And then we have identified in our overall 2022 work program a town hall meeting as part of this discussion on sustainability. And we're currently putting together a plan for that. And then a potential site tour down to San Bernardino to see the hydrogen project there. So Kevin, is there anything you want to add?
Just that close out the slide, I would, since we have some technical questions, I'll just leave one last bit of technical information, and that is even the hydrogen trains, batteries are included. Meaning that they don't operate solely on hydrogen. There's a fuel cell that powers a lithium ion battery. So from the perspective, I just wanted to make sure that that's conveyed, that sometimes there's thoughts like, for those of us that drive electric cars, we operate on all batteries. Some people drive hydrogen cars, but there's a battery included in the train. So it isn't purely hydrogen, it works together. Just thought I'd throw that out there so that there's no misunderstanding about hydrogen not working with another type of power source. It just really, the fuel cell and the battery take the place of electrification from catenary or diesel power, which emits obviously pollutants. That's what it does, is it gives electricity where there are not electrified lines to power the trains. And that's what the benefits are from it. If you look at what it takes to build a catenary system, anyone can do a Google search and figure out what the cost of doing a catenary, what that cost is on the grid. And also not really what we're looking at from Dublin, Pleasanton, BART to Lathrop. There's a catenary overhead. train.
Okay.
And that's all I have.
Okay. Marianne, you still have your hand raised. Do you have anything else to add or any questions? Oh, you're muted.
Nope.
All righty. Okay. With that said, we'll move on to item number 8, which is the 2022 Transit and TIRSIP Rail Capital Program grant application. This is an informational item. Kevin, are you or Will, who's going to be doing a presentation?
It's all, Madam Chair, Will is going to take this one.
All right. Will, you have the floor.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Chair Vargas and members of the board. Staff is pleased to report that last week, the 2022 Transit Rail Capital Program joint application with LAFTA, the Contra Costa Transportation Authority, as well as County Connections was successfully completed and submitted to the state by the Contra Costa Transportation Authority. The final scope of the value link element was scaled, as Kevin mentioned, to an element that was specific to the hydrogen fuel production to support the near-term needs of those buses that would be a part of the I-680 Express bus plan, as well as other near-term conversions for LAFTA, as well as vehicles that are currently being operated by AC Transit. However, the concept that we put forward, as noted, was a modular concept that Zen kind of spoken to, that would allow us to build upon that, as we move forward in time to scale up to, what would be the ultimate needs of the Valley Link rail corridor. And while there were limiting factors for being able to apply for more funding to support the larger vision of the hydrogen production facility, as well as the actual Valley Link rail project itself, at this time, staff did see this effort as a tremendous success when we talk about the establishment of kind of strategic partnerships with other transit agencies and, transit operators within the corridor, as well as identified in attachment a significant, collective effort to secure letters of support across, all the communities that we will be serving. Both on the Tri-Valley as well as the San Joaquin County side of the project. So very excited about that. And then of course, one of the other key aspects of this particular grant application this time is to really be starting to engage our state funding partners, not only on the larger rail corridor vision, but also this hydrogen production facility concept. And so as Marianne had identified in her next steps, part of that is going to continue with, some of these different activities that we look to engage our state funding partners on, which would include, the town hall meeting, as well as the tour of the facilities down in San Bernardino County. And as Kevin mentioned, this would include those state partners that supported the funding of those, vehicles for SBCTA, and then also recognizing that this fits into kind of the state's efforts to establish their own rail fleet of these same type of Stadler flirt vehicles that could be also powered by hydrogen. So very exciting, time to be having, these conversations and a part of kind of the strategic positioning of the project with this application. We do expect to hear results on funding awards out of the 2022 Transit Rail Capital Program by late spring or early summer. And we will keep the board apprised of those results, as well as other funding opportunities that we will be looking to pursue, not only specific to the hydrogen production facility there at the Tracy OMF facility, but also with regard to the larger project. And happy to answer any questions you might have, or Kevin, if there are any other points that you'd like to make.
Good, my end, well, board has any questions?
All righty, and I'm gonna, before I open it to the board, we'll go to the public. Candace, do you have any members of the public wishing to make any comments on this item?
I do. I have one.
All righty, let's bring
Yeah,
this.
this is a bit far out, but is there any consideration whatsoever for the facility to provide a light duty pump? they're fairly expensive if you don't have that many cars coming by, but just in case. Thank you.
So I can answer that if you'd like, Chair Vargas.
Sure, please.
At this point, we have not been looking at establishing, a light duty pump for, other than I would say transit vehicles. So this is something that we have been looking at as far as, design of a facility that could support the fueling of transit buses as a part of this partnership with other transit agencies. And then with regard to some of the conversations we had of being able to support, some of the heavy trucking, logistics facilities in the area, that is something that we have been looking at that would be mostly kind of based upon some form of transport of the hydrogen to other types of, fueling facilities within the adjacent areas that do have, sites for, truck fueling. So being careful about what type of other uses that we might be, actually looking to host on that site.
Very good. All righty. Thank you, Will, and I'll bring it back to our board for board discussion or comments. And this is just an informational item, but I want to say that I'm incredibly grateful for the outreach, the participation, and the support that we got for this item. Collectively, over 30 letters of support were sent to acknowledge the application, and the members, agencies that send letters in support of our agency. I want to express my greatest gratitude and thankfulness for taking the time to just give us their support and voicing their support for our project. Great work on this item. You guys have been, I know that making a grant application is not an easy task, and you guys have been burning late hours candles on making this application. And so to our staff, I sincerely appreciate, Kevin, your leadership on this is absolutely amazing. And I know that you've been working on this for quite some time. So thank you. Thank you so much, all of you, for working on this application. With that said, this item number 9, I believe our ED had was thinking in postponing this item. Is that correct, Kevin?
Yes, yes, Madam Chair, and I apologize in advance for requesting to pull the only action item on the agenda today. But after discussion with legal counsel, we feel that there could be some other options that we'd like to present back to the board. So we're going to go back, strategize on those, come up with a couple different options, because it is somewhat of a complex scenario, being we have 2 different regions with term limits. So we want to make sure that we provide a couple more options to the board. So with that,
No, we appreciate that. Thank you so much. So we will wait to hear that item in a later date. Moving along to item number 10, which is director's discussions, comment, questions, or requests for agenda items. Do any directors have any requests or comments? All right. Quiet this meeting. So moving along to the next item, number 11, the next meeting is April 13, 2022. We'll continue to be virtual for now. And I want to thank to our ad hoc subcommittees. There are some appointments coming along to other members of the agencies. I'm hoping that you guys consider the request coming via email to some of you on other subcommittees, ad hoc committees we are putting together. So this is an amazing group of elected officials that are not afraid of rolling the sleeves and getting to work. And I could not be more proud of working with all of you. I sincerely said that this is one of my favorite boards to participate and work with, and love working with each and every one of you guys. And so thank you, and I will adjourn the meeting, and I'll see you guys around the block.